I heard some pretty interesting news the other day. Frank B. Rhodes, the great grandson of Mr. Chrysler, who started the Chrysler Corporation back in the late teens of the 1900s, early 20s. I think it was maybe 1926 actually is when it was probably started, Chrysler Corporation. He contacted the folks that own Chrysler now and said he wants to buy back the brands that Chrysler was holding, which is, of course, Chrysler and Dodge and Jeep and a few other things tied in there. And they responded with a polite no. That doesn't bother me a bit, because if you say, yeah, let's sell off these businesses, then it's a buyer's market. If they turn it around and say, no, we're not interested, talk us into it, well, then it's a seller's market. I understand this, and I think a lot of people do. Now, whether Mr. Rhodes can put together a package that actually interests for buying out Chrysler and bringing it back to the United States is open to debate. He's talking with the unions, which is a good thing to do. Maybe they can be involved. He's kind of thinking that it's employee owned, at least in part. And I like companies that are employee owned. I think the people do a better job. I trust the company more when it's employee owned. But whether Mr. Rhodes can put together this package or not is up for debate. What he has done, and this is the important thing, is to put out into the public to see what kind of response he would get back from saying, let's buy Chrysler and bring it back to the United States. Because the company that owns it now, well, they don't appreciate the brands. I remember, I think it was just after I got out of high school, I owned a Dodge car. Whether it's a Dart or whatever. It was a simple one, no fins on it. It was tan inside and out. And I liked that car. That was a nice little car. Mechanical push buttons for the transmission, if you remember that. If you're too young, you won't, but us older folks will remember those push buttons on the Dodge. Mechanical push for the transmission. What needs to be done is to talk about this concept and see if we can bring back Chrysler to the United States. Now, it may be someone else that buys Chrysler and brings it back home. I don't know. Now, putting a caveat in place that we don't know anything. Let's say Mr. Rhodes succeeds in putting together a package and actually buys the Chrysler brands. Well, depending on how he packages up for stock, I would be willing to buy a few shares. Not many, because retired, but at least I put a few dollars towards supporting the company, and I would be willing to see it on a dividend reinvestment program, which means you don't get dividends, you just get more shares. Whatever the payout is for that share. For example, if it's $1.95, excuse me, if it was $1.95 dividend per share, well, per share, I would put it back in the mix, and when I got enough money, I could buy another share. That's always the way that I set up my stocks, is dividend reinvestment. That way I get more stocks without putting any money in, and if I don't need the money right away, then it's a good place to hold it. So whether we get Chrysler back into the United States, I think it's doable. I don't know if it's doable with Mr. Rhodes, but I think it's doable. Why? Because all the Chrysler companies, the dealerships out there that sells them, they're trying to get out of their commitments to sell Chrysler. They want to get rid of their inventory. It's sitting there doing nothing. Well, also we have to say that Ford's sitting the same way, and so is GM. And Toyota's starting to get that way too. They've forgotten what sells. And the final no always comes down to the buyer. Doesn't matter what incentives you offer or anything, the final no comes from the buyer. And if you're not interested in it, well, then you see the YouTube channels that are showing that there's millions of dollars worth of inventory sitting out there per dealer. At least $1.5 million per dealer for an average size one, and multi-million for the bigger dealers. What it turns out to be is, if something isn't done to turn around Chrysler, it's going to be gone. And I don't know if we, the American people, want to see Chrysler go away, especially when we're seeing Ford doing this stuff they're doing, which used to be Ford Quality One. Now, Ford, where's the quality? And GM, they've all raised the prices on their vehicles to the point that no one wants to buy them. And that's true for Chrysler too. So, this is something that we need to talk about among ourselves as individuals, your friends and such, and also to post on different websites. I'd like to hear from you what you think of the idea of buying back Chrysler and bringing it back to the United States. So if you could put that in the comments below, I would really appreciate it. And also watch some of the other videos on YouTube that talk about this Chrysler package and everything. Again, it may not be Mr. Rhodes. You know, I don't know what his package would be. He may be able to put together a package that the unions like, and those of us citizens are willing to put a few dollars towards buying Chrysler stock, especially if it's affordable. Now, if they got a price like what Google has Alphabet stock priced at, no, the average individual can't buy any stock. But if you price it, $50 and below, for example, then the average individual can at least buy 1 or 2 shares of stock. And I can see the union members buying a lot of stock, not per person, but in combination. If every union member bought 2 or 3 shares of stock, just think how much money would come into this new Chrysler corporation. It'd be pretty doggone good. And then there's those of us that are willing to help support with a few dollars. Retired, can't put much in it, but I could put a few dollars towards buying stock if it's affordable.
DeSoto and the DeSoto Plymouth dealers, coast to coast, present Groucho Marx in You Bet Your Life.
Groucho sent me to see the new DeSoto.
Groucho sent me, and I love to drive this car. It's long and low and roomy, you're so handsome you can see.
It's powerful, and I'm so glad that Groucho sent me. Listen to him when you hear Groucho say,
Go drive the new DeSoto at DeSoto Plymouth dealers today.
Thank you for watching. And please be safe.
We'd sure appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a comment. You know how YouTube behaves. They won't believe you watched a video unless you leave a comment. Also, it would help if you ring the bell and do a thumbs up. As you know, if I find a good channel, I pass it on to you. So if you think it's appropriate, it would sure help if you passed us on to your closest 10,000 friends and family. But above all, give a helping hand to someone today. It's the best gift to give. It'll make you feel good too.
Don't forget to click like, subscribe, share, or ring the bell buttons on the Original Old Farmer channel. We enjoy reading the comments that you leave, and they do help the channel, so keep them coming. And once again, thank you for watching The Original Old Farmer.
The VFW National Home for Children, providing families of veterans and active duty military opportunities for growth and development in a nurturing community. Please consider a donation to help their children and families. I.C. Rhodes speaking.